Yeah, so I think they're looking at many of the same topics that every other generation is looking for, but they are used to a more casual conversational tone from social media and texting and the technology that they've grown up with. And so it's more about the tone and approach as opposed to a specific topic. And so if you talk to one of our editors or writers, they'll tell you that the guiding principle is, as you're writing a story, is this something that you'd want to talk about with your friends at dinner? And if so, how do we write this in a way that feels like a conversation you'd have at dinner and not like a really, formal, presentation that you might not feel like you can relate to. A lot of folks, particularly in the last couple of years, are recognizing that and changing, the voice and approach in some ways. I think, 4 years ago when Mike was started, that was not the case. I think many legacy organizations sort of either dismissed or overlooked young people as not interested in news. We've seen, reams of data that shows that's not the case. And, Pew had a great study out in April showing that, when you asked 12 questions of every generation related to current events or news or, politics, there was really no meaningful difference in the knowledge that one generation had versus another. And so I think legacy organizations are already, rethinking their approach, but it's really about speaking in a way that doesn't feel like you're either talking down to them or, being condescending, and also recognizing that maybe, they aren't as familiar with the, hostage crisis from 1980 or some of these other things, and so you might have to add some context that if you're writing for an older audience, you might not necessarily have to include. I think there's still a lot of room for improvement. One thing we haven't talked about is the whole product side of things, and the mobile experience. At Mike, for instance, our audience coming to us via mobile is about 65%. If you count tablets, it's upwards of 75%. So, optimizing for that and making sure that they can find your stories through the channels that they're looking at. And it's a lot more than just being on social media. I think it's about thinking about the user experience in a holistic way and making sure that within your newsroom, the product team and the engineering team and the analytics team and the programming team all have a seat at the table to talk about, the best way to reach the audience. And so I think it's, yes, certainly the voice and the editorial approach, but it's also sort of a cross-team collaborative culture that encourages interaction between departments that would otherwise sit in their silos.